All right, we'll get to the Cowboys. So Zach Martin is on his way back. He'll be able to play when they play San Diego this Sunday.
Los Angeles.
Yes, them too. They'll play both cities at the same time. That's why they'll lose. But then Randy Gregory now on the COVID list. And then now the news that is like, wow, maybe their best player, Demarcus Lawrence, has a broken foot. So that means he's not going to be playing for quite some time. John Machota, theathletic.com, joins us while all of this is going down. John, we appreciate it. How much of a shocking like a note was that today in Frisco?
Yeah, it's huge. You just kind of wonder, like, when does this all stop? It's like one thing after another with this team, and man, what a huge loss for a team that like already wasn't getting any pass rush as it was. I mean, that was one of the biggest issues against Tampa Bay. And then you're sitting there thinking, okay, now they got to go against Justin Herbert, who's obviously not Tom Brady, but he's a very good quarterback. How are they going to get pressure? Then you find out that, Randy Gregory's probably not going to play because he's on the COVID reserve list and he's experiencing some mild symptoms. And then now this news, which is just, I mean, to me, Demarcus Lawrence is their best defensive player, and he has been for a while. And now a broken foot like this, you just kind of sit there with the Lyle Collins news, with the Michael Gallup stuff, and you're just kind of like, wow, what's next?
With Demarcus Lawrence, I mean, this is not something he's just going to come back from either. I mean, should we just plan on not seeing Demarcus Lawrence play for the Cowboys the rest of this year?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would go quite that far. I don't know yet. I mean, I'm in the middle of, texting people right now, trying to reach out. So I don't know the severity of it. So it's hard for me to say right now what that will mean. But yeah, it's obviously not great. He's obviously going to miss some time right now. But until I know, the details of the fracture, just where it's at, it's just tough for me to say right now if it'll be a season ender.
So with Lyle Collins, John, 5-game suspension, policy on substance abuse. He's going to appeal, obviously. So where do they kind of stand in that process, and how long does that typically take to figure that out?
That it's tough because it sounds like that they've already appealed, and that's how they got the 5 games.
Okay.
And so this is kind of like a second appeal process, but there's just no guarantee. That I don't know. There's just basically, sorry, I'm texting somebody right now. There's just basically no guarantee that this, and just the way that I get from everything I hear from the Cowboys is they've kind of made their bed with it. They're ready to go forward. And generally, if you think there's a legit possibility that you're going to be able to get it trimmed down to 3 games or 2 games, you'd be hearing some of that stuff right now. And it certainly seems like, they're ready to go forward with Terrence Steele for the next 5 games at right tackle.
John, this is as truthful as I can be. Do you need to take those calls and stuff? Because, I mean, we appreciate it.
No, you're fine.
Okay,
Yeah,
I can imagine. I mean, my God, this is what you unfortunately would rather it not be the case, but this is what you do for a living. We appreciate you. Incredible. So here's a question I got. Lyle Collins, so he's suspended. And it seemed like when you hear about anyone else from any other team in the NFL, the player's suspended 5 games, that's it. But there's always this yes, but with them, with the Cowboys. It just seems that way. There's always drama. And then when there's injuries, Paul, what is it? 4 to 6 weeks is, I mean, it's like that's what it normally is. With them, it could be 8 to 10. Is that me or us, or is that the way you also sense it as well?
I'm sorry. One more time. I apologize.
No, that's okay. Lyle Collins, 5 games. That's usually cut and dry. Now, I know there's an appeal process. It can be minimized, whatever. But there's always this, but he shouldn't have been tested, or he should have. There's always drama about something with whatever. It's how long a player's out with an injury. That seems to linger. The numbers always seem to never add up. And with the suspensions, it seems. Is that the way you feel about some of these stories with them as well?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the 5 games, I was like, where did this even come from? And then the more you talk to people, the more you hear about how it's like, well, I don't even know that he's even failed a drug test. It just he didn't show up to them. And so that's the way they treat it, is if you're not there, then that can be counted as a failed one. But if you're skipping them over and over and over and over, obviously there's a pattern there. Why would you be skipping them for no reason at all? So, but yeah, it is kind of like the injuries. You don't know. And I think it's like kind of a Cowboys thing. There's just always, you just never really know. And there just always seems to be a little bit more to the story. And you find out a little bit, in the coming weeks. And then you find out a year from now what really happened. And you're just like, oh, well, now this makes sense. Now I can see why, he was suspended for this 5 games. I just don't see especially with the way in the CBA that the drug testing and things like that, why it opened the door for Randy Gregory to be able to come back and everything seemed to be in good direction with him. I don't see them, sitting there suspending Lyle Collins for 5 games if they don't have a good reason for it.
John, with his replacement, obviously this week it's apparently going to be Terrence Steele, who had a lot of problems last year. How long of a leash does anybody at right tackle have before they kick Zach Martin out there and put Connor McGovern in?
It's funny you say it because it's like I sit here and I say, well, they'll at least give Terrence Steele this entire Chargers game. But you're like, well, I did see that Chaz Green game in Atlanta, and if it's that bad, they might have to turn to Zach Martin in the second half. I don't know that they do that. I think they would. I believe what the plan is going to be is they're going to start with Terrence Steele. They're going to give him more help than they gave Chaz Green in Atlanta. And so it's going to affect what they can do on offense, but I don't think they're going to be putting Dak in a position like he was in Atlanta where he's just getting blindsided and an Adrian Claiborne type player all of a sudden has a career game, which could well be Joey Bosa, which is just terrifying to think about with just how talented he is. But no, I would think that Terrence Steele plays the entire game. They kind of assess it after the game's over, but you never know. In talking to Zach Martin, or being around reporters today when Zach Martin was talking, they made like 3 or 4 different players available at the same time. It certainly doesn't sound like that's his favorite position to move out to, is right tackle. I think he prefers to stay at right guard because that's where he's best at. That's where he's going to play his best ball, and they feel like he can help Terrence Steele. The issue I have with it is if you can have Zach Martin at right tackle, then you can keep Connor McGovern out there, and then that gives you your best 5, which I think you ultimately need to do. But I don't know that Zach Martin loves the idea, but he obviously is open to it if it's the emergency thing like it was last year, and it's the only option. He's obviously going to play it, but I don't see them going to it like in the second half. Let's put it that way.
All right, John Machota with us, theathletic.com. How did Micah Parsons do in his opening game?
I thought he did well. He didn't have. It's funny because I hate to do this because it just hinges on one play, but just like I think he played well, especially for a rookie. But it's because what you saw in training camp, you're just expecting like he's just going to make these big plays all the time, and you're just going to every game there's going to be a game-changing play. But he was within inches of making that play in this game, and I think it would have won the game for the Cowboys. And it's when Tom Brady's falling down, he goes to flick that ball out into the flat to Leonard Fournette, and he just barely gets over Micah Parsons' hands. If Micah catches that thing cleanly, he's probably running back the other way for 6 because, he's not slow. And it's just like a one play like that changes everything. And I do think that's the type of plays that you can expect from a Micah Parsons. But, when you're going against the GOAT and he's, just makes these savvy plays, seems like every week for, I don't know, over 20 years, you just kind of get used to it. So, but I thought he played well. But no way do I think that like that's the best he can play. Like the best football Micah Parsons can play is certainly in front of him, and you're going to see it this season and probably in the upcoming weeks.
John, I know the injury bug or the unavailable bug is bad right now, but how in the heck did an assistant coach and Leon Lett also get injured? What is going on?
That I'm going to be honest with you. That was a pretty scary scene because where all the offensive linemen and defensive linemen work, it's on the far end of the field. And so it's, they're just doing their individual drills when we're out there. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden we see Leon coming from that far end of the field on the back of a cart with a couple of the athletic trainers. And the way he was laying on the back of the cart, you were kind of like, is he okay?
Yeah.
And then they always have an ambulance that's there during practice. And it started backing up into like closer to the field. And I was like, is he all right? And then they went, and they had him on the cart and they brought him towards the facility by where we were at. And he was still in there. And I could tell the look on some other coaches' faces that they seemed a bit concerned too about like what's going on here. And then finally I saw, a couple of athletic trainers get some crutches. And then finally he slowly got up and they got him off the cart and then walked him into inside into the locker room. So we could tell it was a right leg injury, but we didn't know the significance of it. Now I will say, Leon Lett has been with the Cowboys as one of their defensive line assistants for a long time. He is a very hands-on coach. So I'm thinking what happened is he was doing some type of defensive line drill, and I don't know if it was Achilles or a knee or something gave out, and all of a sudden he went to the ground, and that's when they got the cart over there. But it happened so far away from us that we didn't even know anything happened until he came by us on the cart. And frankly, we were all just relieved to see him get up on the crutches because it looked like it was something more serious than that. But yeah, it doesn't, it just, I don't know. It just, I don't want to say cursed, but it just seems like there's just something going on with this team where it's If it isn't one thing, it's the other.
My God, put Dak back in bubble wrap or something.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Jeez, I mean, this is it's just crazy. And of course they've had their flare-ups before. There were many years when teams around the division have had theirs, but man, they have been hammered. And the Randy Gregory on the same week Demarcus Lawrence goes down is just it's crazy. John, thank you. Did you and Paul trade? When was the first time you guys talked after?
It was right after. John, it was about 10:45 p.m. So it was not a good string of texts between the two of us, I would say.
Well, hey, we'll just tie that one into the Cowboys too. As good as the Cowboys looked against Tampa, kind of like how good Florida State looked against Notre Dame. All of that goes out the window if you just lay an egg here against the Chargers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all the goodwill that you built up from that looking good against Tampa, and that's even without the players that they're going to be missing. It's hard to sit there and get excited about what's going on in Tallahassee right now. I'll put it that way. There's no question in my mind that's the worst loss that I've ever seen in Florida State history, and I'd love to hear if someone said that there's a worse one. Just so many things that happen that are just inexplainable. But you know what? Next Saturday, I'll be watching again against Wake Forest. I'm addicted.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it, John. Appreciate your time. Demarcus Lawrence with broken bone in his foot.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was just confirmed here in the last 15 minutes.
Yeah.
There was the report that he was hurt and that something was wrong with his foot. But then, like right as John was joining us, basically, you started to see the of Cowboys reporters saying that, yeah, it's been confirmed as a fracture. So he is out for the foreseeable future, and that's now official. So big loss, no doubt about it. And yeah, don't even have Randy Gregory available at this point. And Michael Parsons was good, but he also, had mistakes as well. I mean, he's not perfect right out of the gates as a rookie, but he's definitely something you can get excited about. It just kind of stinks that you get a little excited about that performance, and then all of a sudden, days later, here you are, and it's like boom, 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 negative. On both sides of your line. So,
and they almost won Thursday, which is what they do. They tease you with a win like that or whatever. And San Diego riddled
Los Angeles
400 yards against a really good defensive team in Washington, and Herbert converted so many third downs. Now there's no way he keeps up that pace. It was insane, like 14 third downs. But it'll be interesting to see what happens in Los Angeles. When we come back, is it time yet? We got a little bit of time.
We got a couple minutes, yeah.
All right, so